A new video released by the Pentagon shows a Chinese jet buzzing a US reconnaissance plane in what has been called an unnecessarily aggressive maneuver. The video, taken from inside the US RC-135 aircraft flying over the South China Sea, shows a Chinese J-16 jet approaching before flying directly in front of the US aircraft, causing it to fly through the fighter's wake turbulence. A statement from US Indo-Pacific Command referred to the Chinese fighter's actions as an unprofessional intercept and unnecessarily aggressive, stating the US aircraft was conducting safe and routine operations in international airspace in accordance with international law. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the Chinese pilot took dangerous action in approaching the plane very, very closely. There have been a series of these actions directed not just at us, but in other countries in recent months, he said. While there was no direct response to the incident from the Chinese government, a spokesperson for China's Washington embassy said the US frequently deployed aircraft and vessels for close-in reconnaissance on China, which poses a serious danger to China's national security. China urges the US to stop such dangerous provocations and stop deflecting blame on China. While not as dramatic as the US-Russian incident earlier this year, in which a Russian fighter collided with a US drone, damaging the propeller and causing it to ditch in the Black Sea, this US-China incident is clearly not an interaction between friendly parties, highlighting the current state of tension and suspicions between the two countries. The most recent high-profile incident was the shooting down of what the US determined to be a Chinese surveillance balloon that traveled across the United States and Canada, including over sensitive military installations. The US deployed an F-22 Raptor to shoot down the balloon, resulting in protest and anger from Beijing, who insisted it was simply a malfunctioning weather research balloon. It was subsequently revealed by the Pentagon that many of these balloon incursions into US airspace had occurred over previous years, but had failed to be detected. The US has also banned the transfer of semiconductor technology to China and has been pushing countries with significant roles in the semiconductor industry, such as the Dutch and Japanese, to do the same. There are also tensions after the US banned the sale to Russia of electronics that can be used on drones or missile guidance systems after Chinese companies began purchasing these items and selling them onto Russia. This has resulted in these Chinese companies facing US sanctions. But interactions between the countries' militaries adds a new dimension of risk and possibility of escalation, with these sorts of incidents becoming increasingly common in recent years. Last year, a Chinese J-11 fighter jet intercepted a US Air Force RC-135, flying as close as 10 feet from the US plane, causing it to make evasive maneuvers to avoid a collision. This incident again occurred in international airspace, with China blaming the US for its provocative actions. But the US is not alone in having incidents with Chinese aircraft, with the Australian government reporting a Chinese fighter jet flew in front of one of its reconnaissance planes and released flares and chaff which entered one of the engines. And Canada reported Chinese planes forcing aircraft off flight paths during their UN-approved sanctions monitoring of North Korea. In this context, the most recent incident is not a significant break from US-Chinese relations over the past few years, but it does highlight the continuing tensions and animosity between the nations, with explicitly hostile and aggressive interactions now the norm.